Hi there, I'm Jennifer Bowker in Seattle, along with Brandon Huffman, National Recruiting Analyst for Scout.com and Fox Sports Next. We're talking about a couple of recent coaching changes. Sonny Dykes seems to have been quite busy in the past 6 weeks or so at Cal.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of the offenses that he ran, they're a high-paced, high-frenetic type of offense, and he's kind of attacked the recruiting trail much like he's attacked opposing defenses, just real energetic, real aggressive, and he's been able to flip a couple guys that have been committed elsewhere. He's close to flipping some guys that have been committed elsewhere for quite some time. And you know, when Jeff Tedford left, there was a lot of guys at Cal that have stayed committed, but then there's also some guys that were committed to other schools that saw Cal as kind of a sinking ship during the season. Now there's a coach in place. They're seeing the aggressiveness that Dykes is bringing, and now guys are willing to flip their commitments from schools they've been committed to for quite some time to stay on the West Coast and to stay in the Pac-12 and to commit for Sonny Dykes. So he's been very aggressive going after guys that have been committed elsewhere. They've also done a really good job of, you know, in this short time that they had to finish up the 2013 class, make some offers to 2014 guys, but I think that they're really poised for a strong finish, potentially a top 5 finish in the Pac-12 between now and signing day.
Well, you talked a little bit of just about the change, how aggressive it's being. I mean, even going after some top players at some of these elite programs, it's really definitely a switch.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Cal's really doing wisely is if you're going to go after some guys from good program, or go after some good guys, go after guys from good programs, guys that are kind of a pipeline program. And you look at last year when Jeff Tedford was still there, they were able to get Chris Harper down the stretch from towards signing day from Crespi High School, a program that's always been very good at kind of stockpiling talent and then fulfilling those talent, pushing those on to college programs. And already he's gotten a commitment from, or he's close to getting a commitment from Ray Davison from Crespi. He won't decide until signing day. Tyler Foreman, one of his teammates, is down to Cal and UCLA, as well as Brandon Arnold, who's been committed to Oregon State. If those two guys jump in, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Brandon Arnold flip and follow those guys. And Crespi's a program that's going to be strong for the next couple of years. They've already offered 2 sophomores from Crespi. So again, I think that's one of the wise approaches is this: if you're going to try and get guys from programs, do it from programs that have good talent down the pipes, because then that way you can keep going back to that school. You've already got a familiar face. They're going to have their friends and their older teammates that are playing there and kind of have a little bit more to go off of when making their decision. And I think that's one of the real approaches that Sonny Dykes and his staff is doing that's very smart.
Along the same lines, right about 6 weeks again, Mike MacIntyre at Colorado. Maybe a little bit too early to tell how that's kind of shaping up.
I think it is too early to tell, and largely because they've got 2 big recruiting weekends that they've had, one last weekend and then one this weekend, where they've got something around 15 to 16 official visitors and guys that they're trying to get on the boat. And I think there's a lot of guys that committed early to John Embry, and they've also haven't done a great job in state, so they've had to be aggressive going after West Coast kids, because there's so much talent in state that's going elsewhere, and those guys don't seem to be interested in Colorado this close to signing day. So they're having to hit the West Coast a lot harder, and the true West Coast, hitting California much harder to try and bring guys in to fill up that class and really kind of replace the talent that's been waning the last couple of years at Colorado.
But I mean, don't you think they do also need to really look close to home too?
There's no question. And if there's been one weakness of Colorado the last couple of years, it's their inability to keep the elite talent in the state. And again, this year it was evident again. They did get a commitment from Mitch Parsons, and then as he was kind of open to taking some official visits, Colorado lost him and he went his separate ways. But guys like Dan Skipper has hardly even given Colorado a look. He was committed to Tennessee. There was a coaching change there. He's visited Ohio State. He's visited Arkansas. He's visited Michigan with no real plans to stay in state. You've also got Luke Del Rio, who, he wasn't a Colorado native. He lived there just for a year, but he was the best quarterback in the state. He decided to pass on Oklahoma State, where he'd been committed to walk on at Alabama, have a chance to win a national championship down there. Chris Fox is the #1 offensive guard out west, never once looked at Colorado, like almost from the get-go was committed to Michigan once he got the chance to commit to Michigan. And so I think that's one of the things that Mike MacIntyre is going to have to do. It's going to be a very strong year in state next year for talent. The next couple years, Valor Christian is a school that they really need to make a presence felt at, because that's the best program in the state right now in terms of supplying talent. So they need to camp out there and bring some of that elite talent in. But in the entire state, that's the one thing Mike MacIntyre's got to make a priority for that Colorado program. It may be a little late now, but in the 2014 class, they've got to be as strong and aggressive as they ever have in the state.
All right, thanks, Brandon. 2 programs we'll be watching at Scout.com and Fox Sports Next.